in the heart of Ethiopia, on the mighty Abai River, known to the world as the Blue Nile stands the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. A monument of ambition, resilience, and hope, the GERD is Africa's largest hydroelectric project. And in September 2025, it will be fully inaugurated after more than a decade of construction. Hello all, and welcome to EBC Documentary, where we focus on the nearly completed flagship project GERD, clarify false narratives, and way forwards. Stay tuned. Built at a cost of more than $5 billion, fully funded by Ethiopians without international financing, the GERD is a statement of sovereignty and determination. But the GERD is more than a dam. It challenges a long-standing legacy, one rooted in colonial era water treaties. Agreements signed between Britain, Egypt, and Sudan in 1929 and 1959 sought to allocate the Nile's waters as if the rest of Africa didn't exist. Ethiopia, the source of 86% of the Nile waters, was never a party to these agreements. Yet for decades, these outdated pacts have been invoked to oppose Ethiopia's legitimate use of its own river, the Abai. For too long, Ethiopia's journey to industrialization has been hindered by a crippling energy shortage. Today, nearly half the population still lacks access to electricity. GERD will change that. With a capacity to generate over 5,100 megawatts and produce more than 15,000 gigawatt hours annually, the dam promises light for homes, power for industries, and hope for millions. This isn't just about Ethiopia. The ripple effects will be felt across borders, from electrifying East African cities to stabilizing power grids in neighboring countries. According to a recent insight published on Al Jazeera, Jafar Badru Galatu, executive director of the Institute of Foreign Affairs, said, "Beyond power, GERD offers critical ecological benefits. By regulating the river's flow, it reduces flooding in Sudan and limits evaporation losses that plague open reservoirs in arid zones." He pointed out that, importantly, GERD doesn't stop the Nile. It harnesses its energy and releases its downstream just as it always has. The logic is simple. No flow, no power. Blocking the river would defeat the dam's very purpose. On this mini-documentary, EBC World tries to address basic questions like, so why the opposition? Why the global tension? At the heart of the resistance lies a refusal to let go of colonial legacies. Egypt's claim to quote-unquote historic rights denies upstream nations their fair share of the river. Ethiopia's stance is clear. The Nile is a shared African resource, not the private domain of any one country. The future demands a cooperative spirit. Ethiopia and other upstream countries, Burundi, Rwanda, Tanzania, Uganda, and South Sudan have already signed the Nile Basin Cooperative Framework Agreement, a modern African-led treaty for shared prosperity.
What Egyptians and the Sudanese governments particularly don't understand is that the historic right that they have been propagating, or the right they put for themselves, is not right. That is what they don't understand. Rather, they have to come to the negotiable table and deal with the problems of Ethiopia as well as with the problems of their own. In that way, we will see what I have already said, why Ethiopia is constructing the dam. There are reasons. Why they are in need of ample water from Ethiopia also is in the table. Then, the most important thing that hinders people not to come to the solution is that if you don't understand the basic causes of your problem, you can never come to the solution to the problem.
Ethiopia is not building GERD to dominate, but to develop and to share. Now it calls on Egypt to abandon outdated fears and embrace a new era of equitable use and regional integration. In September 2025, Ethiopia turned a historic page. The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD will be officially inaugurated, not only the largest hydroelectric dam in Africa, but also as a powerful symbol of self-reliance, unity, and transformation. After more than a decade of construction, negotiation, and anticipation, the GERD now stands fully operational, promising to redefine Ethiopia's economic future and its standing in the region and beyond.
ህዳሴን በሚመለከት ህዳሴ አልቋል። ህዳሴን እናስመርቃለን። ህዳሴን ከመመረቁ በፊት
On the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, the flagship project has now reached completion and we will soon inaugurate it. There were forces that tried to prevent GERD from being constructed, but that is no longer possible. As the rainy season ends, the filling as well as inauguration will continue as planned. To the downstream countries, my message is clear. GERD is a blessing for both Sudan and Egypt. It will never cause them harm. The progress we achieve in Ethiopia is also progress for our neighbors. The energy we generate will also serve them, bringing benefits beyond our borders. If our dam were truly a source of harm to downstream nations, then there would have been an issue with Lake Turkana when we built the Gibe 3 dam. You may remember the intense pressure that time many wanted that Turkana would dry up. But in reality, even after construction, the lake remains full and continues to overflow.
ከፍተኛ ችግር ነበር። እንኳን ሊደርቅ ከግድቡ በኋላ ያው ሞልቶ እያስቸገረን ያለው።
GERD is a game changer for Ethiopia's economy. It will more than double the nation's current electricity output, fueling industries, powering urban centers, and electrifying rural communities long underserved. For a country whose economic ambitions were often curtailed by power shortage and rising energy costs, GERD is more than infrastructure. It is a catalyst for industrial growth, job creation, and a shift toward energy-driven development.
Because if you look at sub-Saharan Africa in particular, the greatest threat to life and instability and insecurity is the lack of energy. And this unfortunately has not been understood by any of the Western nations, by the NGOs, by the UN, anyone who says they concern themselves with the development of Africa. Have been off target, to be polite, because without electricity, there is no life in any economy. We have probably less than 100,000 megawatts of power to all of sub-Saharan Africa, which is well over 1 billion people. And the largest portion of that energy comes from one country, South Africa. So the fact that we don't have energy means that people, Africans, are dying and suffering every day, because energy gives life to industry, to citizens' living conditions, to school, to hospitals, to medicine, to everything. So the very idea that the Ethiopia, who is not considered a, quote, major economic power in the world, is able to, on its own, build and fund this hydroelectric dam, which will be putting in, as I said, over 5,000 megawatts, which would be a very significant contribution to the continent. I mean, it's well over, it's going to be bigger than 5% contribution. And in sub-Saharan Africa, it will make Ethiopia the largest, second largest producer of electricity next to South Africa. So that in itself is extremely important. And in the context of you were asking about Africa as a whole, it gives a lot of optimism, and it should give a lot of optimism to other African nations that they can make sovereign decisions to build and fund and create their own electricity through hydroelectric dams or otherwise. And I think this will be the largest hydroelectric dam in Africa and one of the largest in the world. And there's more dams being planned in the Blue Nile Basin.
But the impact of GERD goes far beyond Ethiopia's borders, as it begins exporting surplus power to neighboring countries like Sudan, Djibouti, Kenya, and potentially further into the Horn and East Africa. GERD is fast becoming a pillar of regional integration. Reliable and affordable energy from the GERD will support economic growth, reduce fossil fuel dependency, and promote environmental sustainability across the region. It is helping to weave a new narrative, one of cooperation, connectivity, and shared prosperity.
So, the completion of this project will be very vital, not only to Ethiopia, but also to the regional, to Eastern Africa, as well as to the African Union. As you know, this project, the GERD Dam has been constructed by the homegrown economy, as well as, from the resource mobilized by the Ethiopian. So, in fact, this construction has just, given us a very big lesson that we have also, tried to break the glass ceiling that Africans or Ethiopians, these developing nations, there was an assumption that these countries cannot build a mega project by themselves unless outside support is provided for them. We have just, broken this glass ceiling that we have constructed by our own economy, as well as significantly with our own professionals and engineers. So this is very important to our country, that we can also replicate such kind of project in the future, which is also important. With regard to diplomacy, if you are capable of doing what you dream to do, you can, you can have different development initiatives within and outside the country. Therefore, this project can be used to economically integrate the regional countries, like our neighbors, Sudan, South Sudan, or Kenya, you may say, Somalia or Djibouti, all other, even including Eritrea. So the experience obtained from this project and this dam could be, very vital to do a similar project in our surrounding areas. And the project the power or the energy generated from this dam can also be used to integrate the surrounding areas, the surrounding countries, which is also important to advance the areas and to have a good diplomatic relation with our neighbors.
Hydroelectric dam, the GERD, as I said to you earlier, is already carrying out the African Union's policy of regional integration by selling 100 to 200 watts of electricity to 3 nations already, Djibouti, Sudan, and Kenya. And is, as I said, I think before the end of the year, we'll be selling it to Tanzania. And these amounts of electricity, which are in the order of 100 to 200 megawatts, these will also increase, because what happens is the GERD which is already producing electricity. When I was there, on the particular day I was there, it was producing 1,800 megawatts of power. That power goes to the Ethiopian national grid. And from the national grid, electricity is exported to neighboring nations. So the key factors there is, one is more people in Ethiopia, where roughly half the population does not have access to electricity. So this will increase the availability of electricity to the citizens of Ethiopia and to any manufacturing, all manufacturing, including the manufacturing of what's now called rare earth or critical minerals, requires electricity. So now we have the potential of advancing the living standards of the Ethiopian people and also of the manufacturing sector of Ethiopia, which is the most important sector. But this is also bringing in the potential of the other neighboring countries, including Kenya. And Kenya technically is not part of the Horn of Africa, but it's a major country in East Africa. So Ethiopia has already gone beyond the Horn of Africa. And this potential, and this is what I've discussed many times, is the reason we also want to promote Ethiopians having access to the trade water routes along the coastal areas. Because the development that the Ethiopian economy grows, then the neighboring economies benefit from that trade and that level of commerce, of the physical economy growing in Ethiopia.
On the global stage, the GERD has elevated Ethiopia's diplomatic profile, no longer just a recipient of aid or a symbol of development challenges. Ethiopia is now asserting itself as a strategic player, a country with energy leverage and a critical voice in transboundary water negotiations. The dam, once the source of tension and contestation, is evolving into a platform for cooperation and a bargaining chip in shaping the geopolitics of the Nile Basin. Despite the hurdles and controversies that marked its construction, the GERD has united Ethiopians at home and abroad. It was funded largely through domestic resources, public bonds, civil servant contributions, and a national call to action that transcended politics. In its completion lies a powerful message that Africa, and Ethiopia in particular, can take charge of its destiny, design its development path, and reshape its role in the global economy. As the turbines turn and the lights glow in distant towns, GERD is no longer just a dream. It is now a flowing current of possibility for Ethiopia, for Africa, and for a more balanced and cooperative global future.
አሁንም ግብጽ ብትሄዱ የግብጽ አስዋን ግድብ 1 ሊትር ውሃ አልቀነሰም። 1 ሊትር
From the very beginning of GERD until today, not a single liter of water has been lost from the Aswan High Dam. And moving forward, we have no desire whatsoever to see our Sudanese and Egyptian brothers harmed. On the contrary, our vision is one of shared prosperity. Together, we can use the water, share the energy, and build common development. And whenever dialogue is required, we will engage in dialogue as partners. For years, the only message directed at us was, do not build, do not touch the river. That's all. But we have never rejected dialogue or negotiations. What we said was simple. We are building with our own resources, with our own money, so do not tell us not to build and do not tell us not to use our river. What I can say with certainty is this: GERD will not harm either Egypt or Sudan. Here before, Ethiopia's highest authority, the House of People's Representatives, I call upon the brotherly governments of Sudan and Egypt to join us in celebrating this achievement when GERD is inaugurated very soon. The only true threat to our water is the growing challenge of drought. It is true, if Ethiopia faces severe drought, water will be scarce. But to prevent this, we are investing heavily and working hard through our Green Legacy initiative. So, on this occasion, I call on all of us to approach this matter with honesty and a spirit of cooperation and to move forward together.
በተከበረው ምክር ቤት ፊት ግብዣ አቀርብላቸዋለሁ።
For that, not only for the use but also for the sustainability of this river, the surrounding countries need to cooperate together. You see, like I said earlier, these rivers, there is no guarantee that this will remain for the centuries, unless with increasing population, with significant increase of the economic development, with different political volatility in the region, the river management could be significantly affected. Hence, mainly Egypt, Sudan, and all other riparian countries of the Nile, or all other rivers flowing from Ethiopia, they should consult and work together with Ethiopia and support the green initiatives that our country is now boosting, and all other watershed management initiatives need to be supported, so as the economic benefits that we share in this river basin will be enhanced.
Working with Ethiopia, being cooperative enough in developing the Abai Basin. That is the main solution. We don't need to bargain for the existing water resource. We should think as scientists, as intellectuals, scholars, and good, genuine politicians. We have to work on increasing the amount of Abai water rather than bargaining for the existing one.
The story of GERD is the story of a nation rising from darkness, a dream built with the hands of its people and powered by the river that has long sustained them. The Nile flows through all of us, and only together can we ensure it flows for generations to come.